Welcome back to Painting and Decorating. As promised, a video on hanging a Laura Ashley wallpaper on a staircase wall, a feature wall. Let's have a look at some of the gear I'm going to use and then we'll crack on. So starting over here, you can use a spirit level or plumb bob. I prefer to use a plumb bob. I've got snap blade there. It's a really good one, that. That are my old scissors, and I've got some new scissors. Now these are ultra sharp tip. What does it say? Japanese steel, rust resistant. So I'm hoping they'll be pretty good. Pencils, hard lead, so you're not marking too much. You need a few of them in case you drop one. Paper hanging brush. Some people like to use like a spatula or something, but can scratch certain papers, so I always prefer to use my brush. Bucket of water, clean cloths, got my paste, my brush. That's Solvite wallpaper paste, and that's the paper. Should look quite nice, that. I've got enough rolls for the job. I've checked all the batch numbers, so they're all okay. Some extra stuff. So this is my scaffolding I've got set up. Nice and safe. Dust sheet to protect the wall there. So your first length on a staircase always has to go there, because if you come down here and have a look, it drops down there, and you make sure it's overlapping round this bit. You can't have it so when it drops, if it's coming down like that, you've got to make sure it's round that corner. So if you get a lot of off-cut, that just happens, you can't help it. All houses are quirky, full of different shapes. So first piece, you drop it down there. Second piece is on that side, and then you just go back that way. And finally, you finish off the bottom section. So first of all, what you want to do is measure your drop. Then, using your pencil, you want to mark the length of the width of the paper and plumb a line down, and make sure when you've plumbed your line that the paper is going round that corner. You'll have to adjust your line to make sure it's going round that corner. I mean, it looks like, when you look up there, it is all shapes. It dips in just there, you can see. So I can imagine we're about 3 inches out, possibly 4, but we'll see. I'll show you that in a minute. Once you've measured your length, take your roll and offer it up to the wall, like so. Now, what I'm going to do straight off is make sure that I've got an inch overhang. I'm going to make a mark, plumb it, and then double check that corner. And if it is not right, then I'm going to have to redo it. So I've measured the paper, and it's 15 feet 3 inches. Now, the bench, I've actually put lining paper on that, so it's nice and clean, perfect. I do that for every paper, so no damage. So I'm going to cut this now. I've got my length 15 foot 3 inches, and I know that what's left there won't do my next length. So that's put to one side, and that can be either used further along the wall or at the bottom of the stairs going back the other way, because there'll be enough on that. Now I'm going to put that out of the way. I'm going to use another roll. Now this paper, it's a drop pattern, and it repeats every 26, between 53 and 26, so you've got to find that. I'll show you that in a minute. Now it's paste the wall, this paper. Where is it? It says there, paste the wall. Now you can paste the wall or you can paste the paper. I prefer to paste the paper. That's what I'm used to, and it's the cleanest way to do it, really. I've overlaid the other piece of paper on top of the other one and found where the actual pattern is the same. Now this is a drop pattern, so that means where it repeats there, that'll actually be dropped down to there. So now it's more or less, if I drop back there, see one bird there, one there, one there, more or less in the middle. So then when you come across to the other side, it actually joins. And there's the other bird, and then we went to the middle, and we've come across. There's the bird, and that's the match. Right. So I'm going to cut this top, so I know this next length is the same as that at the top. So my pattern I know is the same, going to be right, and then I can just measure the length of it. I'm ready to paste this now. I'm not going to show you this bit, we've got videos on that. Like I said, solvite paste. There's no need to allow it to soak, it's just paste it and stick it up. So it's never easy opening a piece of paper on a staircase. You've always got to make sure you've got the top head first. Just turn it around. Now, some papers, if you open them too quickly, they can rip. With this being pasted wall, it's quite a tough paper. But still, you've got to be very careful. And what I'm going to do is allow that to drop slowly onto the step there. I'm going to hold it on the step and then allow it to drop down and pull it up at the same time. And then leave it across. Minding your plumb line and making sure you've got the overlap with 1.5 inches onto the ceiling. Come down your plumb line. Once you've done so much, taking your papering brush out any earth from the back. Get any paste on the front of the paper, just wipe it off with a cloth. That's another thing I was going to say. Make sure you've got your cloth with you. What you need to do is just follow that plumb line down. This piece is the most important piece. If you get this right, it'll just flow into place. It's got quite a tough front on this paper. Good. Now, I'm not going to do any trimming at first. I'm just going to get the paper on and then do the rest of the trimming. Release that back slowly because they can rip when you're doing that. When I do that, I'm actually wiping off any paste that might be on the brush. That's not too bad at all, so the first cut I'm going to do is this one round the corner. Heavy scissors these, but they're good. Do a few cuts. Too bad. The rest of it, I'm actually going to use my knife, my blade to cut the rest of it. I'm going to cut this bottom one first before I go back up to the top. And it's straightforward really. I've got my blade, make sure that is nice and fresh. Then making sure your paper's all tucked into that edge. It's all nice. You can see there's hardly anything. And then obviously, so always make sure you measure the right side of your paper as well. What I'm going to do first of all is just mark that with the back of my scissors. I'm not going to use a pencil or anything like that. And then using the blade, got to be careful because sometimes walls, surfaces aren't perfectly straight. I'm doing this with a camera in the hand as well. Perfect. And once you've done any cutting, always remove the paste. Alright, so I'm going to start trimming that little bit at the bottom and drop back to the top, trim the top, wipe off all the paste, and then I'm ready for the next piece, which I'll show you. Ready to do the next length, so I'm going to measure the length first of all, and I already know I've got the piece on the bench where I've got the pattern right, so I know where my top is already. Right then, next piece, basically a bit like the other one. Open it up so it's on the staircase, top tread, like that piece down there. And then as you open it up, just bring it across. Now what you want to do is not just put the whole piece on the wall, bend it in half and find out where your pattern starts to match, and match the pattern first. Make sure you come all the way down as far as you can, making sure that pattern's matched. Sometimes you're better off making sure it starts further down, so as the further you get down your pattern doesn't run out or anything. Depending on what papers you're using, they stretch, so you've got to be really careful. And then just brush out the air from around the back. It's not too bad. Again, making sure you've got your cloth with you. If you get any paste on, wipe it off. And just slowly work your way down. Always making sure your pattern is matching and the joint is put up. That's good. Now, where this window is here, I'm just going to make a few relief cuts. Just there, I've actually got the screws for the curtain rail, so I'm just going to slice through them. With it being a tough paper, they won't pop through. You've got to give them a cut with your knife first, and then pop them through. Making sure your joint isn't overlapped. Now I'm going to go back to the top first. Make sure there's no bubbles in it. Get that joint quite wide. Okay. And then make sure there's no paste on the front of it. You're ready to drop down to the next bit. Opening your paper up, taking your time, because you can rip at this point on certain types. This is good paper, this. Now, make sure your pattern's matching. You've got no paste in there. I'm just manipulating that pattern a little bit, just pushing down on it. It doesn't really stretch this paper, but you can always adjust it. It's very slightly. So put a bit of this waste up so you can see. Have to get used to them scissors. So really now it's just a case of doing the trimming because it's on. Just like that bit and you can have a look. You've always got to make sure your joint isn't overlapped. That's the worst bit because once it's dry, there's nothing you can do about it. Right, let's have a look. Not done too bad at all, that. Now the joint is a little bit dark because it's wet. But overall, that's pretty good. So like I say, I'll show you a few more little bits. And then the finish. When you're actually measuring for paper, you always make sure you add an extra roll, just in case any of the paper's damaged. Now this one, I've just I've just started to cut it there, and then I just noticed as I was cutting it, I don't know if you can pick it up, that white line there, but then it comes all the way down the paper. Yeah. It stops further down, so I'm hoping I'll cut it down here and I'm hoping it doesn't carry on, but that's why you always need to get more paper than you need. Worked out quite well, them two pieces. So the next length drops down here and then you cut it and you trim it round so it trims round there, and then you infill this piece. Yeah, basically I've changed my mind with this cut. What I'm going to do instead is put my splice across here. So I'm going to, at the minute I'm going to cut from up there to that corner, and then this piece I'm going to wrap round to the window and then put another piece on down there, wrap that round and then splice it in. I've just got to trim that at the top, but then you can see down here what I've done. Wrap that round underneath and just cut it across there so I can match up that pattern, put a piece on and then splice it. Boom. Next piece goes on here. I'll work out which side I'm going to splice. Probably make that wrap round again and then splice it somewhere there. That piece is nearly done now. So this bit where it overlaps, I need a bit of overlap adhesive. Don't like that. Okay, I'm doing this one-handed. So a bit of overlap adhesive on that joint. Well, joint overlap I should say. Right. Now this bit here, I'm going to splice it. Now make sure you know where you're coming to. See that? Oh, one movement. There you go. Once that's dry, you won't see that little mark, but not only that, the curtains sit here, so you'll never see it anyway. Right, so the next one is I'm going to bring this bottom across, so then I can put that final piece in straight down to match up, and that's why you've got to make sure it's plumb. And then I'm just going to infill with this piece. I'm doing really well so far. I'll just give you a look where I'm up to. So I said just got that piece to put in there downside because I've done the other one, and then I've just got the bottom to finish, and then you can have a look, all done.